I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell.
Good morning. Welcome to a playoff edition of the Storm Cellar. The Canes are up 2-1. Normally I'd say, how you feeling, Ray? But I feel pretty good because I haven't seen the Hurricanes play 60 minutes of hockey within a single game yet. And they're still up 2-1. So, and my flag is still here.
They haven't. No one's tried to.
Hasn't been stolen yet
or whatever. Yeah.
My flag gets as many likes as anything I post on Twitter.
There you go.
Good. Bread's flag hasn't been stolen yet. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm doing okay too. Although I think you and I, we have to be a little bit more careful about what we say. With great power comes great responsibility. For weeks and weeks and weeks since we began, you and I would say certain things about players, teams, the team play, the whole thing about our Hurricanes, and they would come true. We need more from Trocheck. And 2 minutes later, he scores. It's like they're listening and tuned in.
Brady Shea's on that list.
Yes,
Jordan Stahl's on that list.
Exactly. All of these guys that we have asked for more from them or whatever, and boom, instant. So we have a lot of power, and we should have known. We should have known at the end of our last episode when you asked, where do you think we will be after 3 games? We should have known that if we were to say we'd be up 2-1, that's exactly what was going to happen. And we should have told better. Them 3-0. We should have said 3-0.
That's on us.
And so last night's loss, Hurricanes, Rod, I'm sorry, guys, Fishy, Turbo, you guys, I'm sorry. The loss is on us. Okay? Take no heat over what happened last night. It wasn't the Bruins that beat you. It wasn't, you guys not playing a full 60 minutes, although, there is legitimacy there. We still haven't seen them play a full 60 minutes. It was totally our fault for the loss. So, apologies to Caniacs and Jerks and the Hurricanes organization. Okay? Now that that's out of the way, we'll have some time to think about the power that we have. It is with great pleasure that we have the power of introducing another Caniac. We get to bring in Lindsey Holmes. Lindsey, thank you very much for joining us here in the Storm Cellar. Love having guests on who are excited about the squad. How are you doing this morning?
Hey y'all, good morning. I am doing great, and I'm so excited to be here.
This is awesome. We always love having the guests in, and as is the tradition, we love to hear their stories, and we give them the floor. Oh,
we actually have can I open with a question we got from Twitter for Lindsey?
Oh, question for Lindsey. Look at this. Nice.
Is it coming from across the pond?
Our very, very good friend, Scottish friend Paul Lawson, would like to know, why are you an embarrassment to anyone with Scottish heritage? And I really want to know the backstory of where that question came from.
My family left Scotland for a reason, and it might be Paul.
Oh, wow.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
That's right across the bow, Paul.
That escalated very quickly.
Man, this is like Canes Bruins game 2, man. This is
no question. Where did this come from?
It's like fish versus chips at this point, now that we're going Scottish.
This is outstanding. Okay, so now that those shots been fired, I'm going to try to dive in like the linesmen and the refs do to prevent anyone chucking
yesterday.
to prevent anyone chucking knuckles. Lindsey, we're going to get right off the start. We give you the floor. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your fandom with the Hurricanes and so forth. Do you have all-time favorites? Like, how long have you been a fan of the team? favorite players, whatever you'd like to talk about, the floor is yours.
Oh my goodness, I have so much, but I'll keep it short. I have family in Toronto, and Toronto is a hockey city. Canada is a hockey place.
It
Um,
is.
I have followed hockey because of my nephew. It was like something we could have in common. Uh, so disclosure, my family is split between Toronto Bruins and Canes, and it's heavily on the Toronto side, but my nephew's a diehard Bruins fan. We know one of the coaches for the Bruins, so we kind of follow along their timeline. But then there's me and I've recently recruited my aunt into being a huge Caniac. Some of the highlights from like my fandom, Sean Avery, actually, my uncle passed away in 2008, and Sean Avery was a big part of helping raise money for my family. So Sean Avery will hold a special place in my heart, albeit his, Sean Averyness. And then of course I love Dougie. Dougie is my favorite player. I followed him from Boston to Calgary to Carolina, and I think when he came here in 2018, I really became a Carolina Hurricanes fan. Like I really I got a Twitter and I made it super active, and but yeah, Dougie Hamilton, and then the crossover from Anderson from the Leafs to here like really cemented my Hurricanes fandom. I actually went through a rough patch when we signed TDA. I had a lot of
We all
feelings.
did. Well,
Yeah.
Ray and I did. I won't speak for the fan base, but
Yeah. I did a lot of soul searching, and then after I lost a parent, I realized how important hockey was to kind of just like remove me from the side of reality, and just like for 1.5 hours I get to watch men on the ice just like do whatever. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, Sean Avery is a highlight for me. I love being able to fight with my nephew right now. I mean, like the family text is like not fun because the first 2 games my nephew turned it off and was like, I'm not watching anymore. And I'm sending them like live videos of the PNC arena, just like losing their absolute mind. So yeah, I have so many hockey stories, but I think that's a good kind of like, how did I get here?
that's a good one. And for like Sean Avery is one of those guys like people love to hate, right?
Yeah.
I always have some level of respect for a guy who gets an NHL rule more or less created because of him.
Oh yeah, the shield.
For newer folks who don't know,
Yeah.
right up in the face of the goaltender, facing him, just waving a stick in his face. And at the time, that was illegal. And so the next year, there's what we now kind of call the Sean Avery rule. You can't do that anymore. But I mean, even the hockey guys that we love to hate and that we don't like. I mean, I forgot who it was. I think it was Haley who came on who was mentioning Brad Marchand and the things he does in the community. You're mentioning Sean Avery. You mentioned,
I almost have like a rule. It's like on the ice, I'm allowed to hate them. Off the ice, there's probably I mean, they're all like they all have family.
They're people.
Redeeming
They're
qualities,
people.
and they're absolutely what they do on the ice is what they're paid for and what they're good at and stuff. And beyond that, it's how they reach out into the community and so forth. Yeah, you're right. Like that.
I mean, like PK Subban donates like a huge portion of his earnings to a children's hospital in Quebec. Like,
yeah,
I mean, they have like I feel like some of them do utilize their power and money and stature to impact play, and like especially like with like the BLM movement last year, I feel like a lot of players did step up. I'm not specifically talking about the Canes. Like I'm thinking of like Tyler Seguin, the Hurricane, or not the Hurricane, the league's what do you call it, sweetheart, out there, the BLM protests. Like I think like they do get opportunities and they do use them.
And very quick side note, happy birthday to Luke Prokop, who plays for the Edmonton Oil Kings, who is the first active openly gay player. It is his birthday today. Happy birthday to Luke.
Indeed. I love when athletes don't sit on their pile of money that they've earned with their talent, and they find ways to improve their communities. It's the best thing. It's the best thing about it. You know what I mean?
Even at our arena, like Eric Cole still has a presence there with his, suite that he has for families.
Eric Cole.
I love the fact that we're getting to a point with COVID where we're a little more back to what we're used to, and seeing how excited people are just to get a jersey signed after a game, or a photo with a player, even if the player's in their car and they're just kind of pausing for a second going. I mean, that shows a lot of fan engagement that I think really, and Ray and I have mentioned this on the pod before, when you're a small market team, it's all about the connection between you and your fans, because there's only so many of us as Hurricanes fans.
So I actually went home to Toronto, and this was like right before the pandemic. And I am so used to the market here where it's like you could stand outside and like wave them home, you can wave them in. And I went to the security and I was like, hey, where does the bus leave? I want to wave them out. And the Toronto security guard was like, what are you talking about? So I think we always forget how Carolina is a small market. We have that advantage, the access to players. But yeah, once you leave our market, people are like, you cannot interact with players. What are you talking about? You're crazy. Austin Matthews is not going to stop his Lamborghini and talk to you.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the Hurricanes are still the only fan base that routinely shows up at the airport at like 2 a.m. to welcome the team home from a win, right? I mean, I've never heard of fans doing it anywhere else, nor would they be allowed to. And I can remember in like 2002, 2006, like the players were excited about that, right? It's not just a one-way thing with the fans are excited about it. The players, I can remember it was Sean Hill saying on like one of the videos, like he's like, we're looking out the window and it's like, oh, the Caniacs are here, and like the guys were geeked up for it. I think that's just such a cool relationship.
Genuinely amazed, really, because it's something they just hadn't experienced. And it's something that I love about Canes fans, and it just strengthens the bond and connection with the team, and it just they feed each other. There's a very symbiotic relationship. I think
it's funny that when players come from bigger markets, like I'm sure Anderson had the shock of his life when he's just like walking around Harris Teeter and like nobody's talking to him. Like imagine coming from Toronto to here, like it must just
never
be like
get away
a
with
culture
that.
shock. Yeah.
If you didn't read I can't remember who wrote it. It might have been, I think it was maybe the News Observer. When Rod Brind'Amour was traded here, I don't know if you've read that, Lindsey. He gets traded here right before the big snowstorm in 2000. And he's like, I'm in the grocery store and I didn't have winter clothes and I didn't really have money and like nobody recognized me. And he's like, it's kind of weird, but kind of cool at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. A pleasant surprise and a real shock from one place to the next, no matter where you go or get traded. It's playoff discussion time. We are up. Canes are up 2-1. Everyone's holding serve. We'll cross-pollinate with a little tennis reference there. Everyone's holding serve so far. How do you think, what's your assessment after 3 games, Lindsey? What do you think? What are we looking at here?
I knew we weren't going to sweep in 4. I didn't want the curse, so I expected us to win game 2 in Boston, but not game 1, considering how I think Boston fans were really, really amped to bring the team home, just like we are when the Canes are home. And they wanted to welcome them back with, the loudest that arena's probably ever been. I think I'm not nervous yet, but I will say that there were some points yesterday where I had some feedback, but I expected a 1-game win, 1-game loss on the road.
Same. Yes. I thought they looked sluggish. I don't think they looked like they were really in it yesterday for a good bit of the game. Some of that's officiating and getting the swing of things, because Lord knows game 2, 5-on-5 play just was practically non-existent.
Yeah.
But those last 10 minutes, that energy needs to carry over to game 4, because I think that they should get a split in Boston. Would love to see that. For anybody who was on the ledge last night, if you thought that we were going to sweep Boston, I think, I could maybe see you say, okay, we could win this in 5, but, I don't see anybody who realistically expected a 4-game sweep. So the only way to win, a series in 5 or 6 games is to drop a couple. So we're right where we want to be. We're ahead. That's the big thing.
Exactly. There's thoughts of a sweep were especially rose-colored glasses, considering the opponents. Boston was coming into the playoffs playing very, very well. And so, we knew it was going to be tough. Of course, there's the history between the two teams. And even like the regular season, I have to tell you, I was really quite surprised in games 1 and 2 of the continuation of the dominance of the scoring, of the fact that the Canes had still not allowed the Bruins to lead at any point in any of the games. I was stunned that that continued. I expected a little bit tighter games, but the Canes just outworked and outscored, and it was amazing. And I was thinking, this really can't be the Bruins, right? Like maybe we've got some mojo over them or something, because it was unbelievable. And yesterday, last night's game, when they got that shorthanded goal to tie the game at 1, you could feel the energy shift. You could totally, it was visceral. You could feel it. The Canes had taken the fans out of the building. They were super hot right off the start. Canes get out there and score the first goal, and it just deadened everything. And then suddenly now the Canes are on the power play, and they've got a chance to maybe, get out there to a 2-goal lead. And then all of a sudden, a bad decision in the offensive zone by KK. All of a sudden, there's a 2-on-1. Kochetkov had no chance really on any of the goals. I can't there was one that he allowed that was a little whatever, but for the most part, he did his best and he played well. But giving up that shorthanded goal brought everyone back into the game, like the fans, and you could just feel an energy switch. It was crazy.
I
It
think
was something I was not expecting.
Part of these games, I think game 1, Ronta played the best game of his life.
Oh man!
I mean, he was just on fire, and I
That's
am like I'm always in the goalie's corner. I think the goalies are the third line of our offense. Like they are the last resort. But and then game 2, everybody had to play in front of Pyotr after Ronta's pulled out. And I mean, if we look at the Canes' history of like having to play in front of a goalie, like look at David Ayer's game. Like when we know that we have a goalie protect, I feel like Rod just like tells everybody to like step up. Like this is our opportunity. This goalie is not our only line of defense. You guys know how to play the game. And I think that's what happened in game 2 is everybody was like, Pyotr cannot lose this game. Like our little rookie baby, like all the way from Chicago, getting halfway coached by Svechnikov at this point. I think like you guys need to step up. And I think last night Boston switched to Swayman after having Ullmark for 2 games. And I think that just was the change that they needed. I think they played very well in front of him. So I think they kind of looked at the Hurricanes a little bit like I hate to brag, but they just played really well in front of him. Like we played well in front of our goalie at home as
No question. There
100%.
were certain
I was going to say, I agree with you. I know I saw a number of people who were like, "Oh, TDA." I said that was KK. That started with him on that shorty. I thought. Yeah. I also thought Kochetkov played lights out. Yeah, I agree. Maybe one of those goals is him. The Bruins go 2 for 5 last night for 40% on the power play. Our penalty kill last night was the lowest it's been in a while. I mean, what is that percentage wise? Giving up, 2 out of 5. I mean, that's for us, that's awful. So
the last time that happened was against Tampa, that one game. They gave up 3 out of 4. They gave up 3 goals on 4. Like that's crazy. That's crazy production. So it was tough. There were some great moments in those games at home. And there was one in particular that I wanted to bring up, but I know you guys all have certain moments that we absolutely loved. Nino Niederreiter, there was one play, we're up in the game and there's a little bit of momentum that Boston has. And Marchand brings the puck over the blue line and no one sees it. But Bergeron is coming in on the right, and he's wide open, coming like right into Broadway. It's going to be beautiful. Marchand throws the pass across, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this diving body, Nino Niederreiter, just throws himself onto the ice, reaches out, waves his stick, and deflects the pass. I swear to you, I thought in my mind before the Super Nino went flying through, I thought, oh my, here's a goal. Here's the tying goal right here. And all of a sudden, there's that dive of the perfection. I jumped out of my seat. I'm like, and I messaged Brad immediately, as we often do during games. And I said, we need to talk about that because that is the type of defense that Rod inspires. But that's what playoff hockey is. The total involvement and not giving up. That's what you love to see. And even better was the fans in the stands who saw it as well and jumped out of their seats and gave him an ovation right off for the line change. It was glorious. I loved it. But I know it wasn't the only super highlight in those games either. I know we have a few to take from here. Lindsey, I know you've got one that you brought up before we started, and it was outstanding. It was an outstanding pick.
Yeah, I think Ian Cole, save percentage 1.0, if that's what we're talking about. I mean, I love my goalies, and if Coley wants to be a goalie, I'm down. I'll make a shirt. I'm down.
And that's in 52 games played for Ian Cole. Just to throw that out there.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable percentage. Yeah. Yeah, you're not putting anything past him, that's for sure. And of course there was one other event that was massive. I jumped out of the seat on and brought about a little bit of controversy as well. Criticism from every Bruin fan that I've ever spoken to, and even some Bruin fans who I don't even know how to. It's this Svech's hit on Lindholm, where he took him right out of his skates with perhaps the cleanest, hardest check I have ever seen delivered since the days of Scott Stevens.
Yeah, that was the best looking clean hit I've seen in like 10 years.
It was unbelievable.
What I find interesting, y'all, is Bruins fans were like, that should be a major. He left his feet, he threw his elbow, he sprinkled fairy dust in the air, all these things that magically Bruins fans thought happened that didn't. But then last night, when Smith gets taken high, they're like, oh, well, that's a good hit. And I'm like, I'm not saying that the hit on Smith, the boarding hit on Smith, the hit itself, I'm not sure it was, I really want to see it again, but it was a lot closer to being an illegal hit than the Svechnikov's hit by leaps and bounds. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not saying it was an illegal hit. I'm just saying to compare the two hits, and you said, if you have to call one of these illegal, which one is it? It's the one last night against Smith. Which that's a whole nother issue with, because he's on the boards. Boarding's a whole different kind of call. But yeah,
Lindholm went flying because Svech has got like 20 pounds on him. I mean, Svech really bulked up over the season. He's gotten really precise with his hits. I think like Rod's been working with him, and I think he just went flying because Svech is fast and bulky. And I remember I was on that end of the ice with my seats, and I just remember I saw Lindholm like literally touch air almost, like he was up in the sky. And of course I was concerned for him, but I didn't see anything wrong. Like I thought it was a textbook hit.
I just think he didn't see Svech coming until maybe the last possible second, because he doesn't react until he gets hit. I don't think he ever really saw him. And even Svech said, at that point I was committed to the hit. There wasn't much I could do. I hope he's okay. Because I mean, I think Svech could have, put a little more oomph into it had he really wanted to, and he didn't. He's a good kid.
Yeah. It was a literal keep your head up moment. I mean, that's what we've seen a number of times and so forth, where it's you keep your head up. And Lindholm was getting a pass from behind the net. He's trying to find the puck. He's got his head turned. The second he turns his head, there is all of Svechnikov right there, and there was no avoiding it. And he hit him He hit him in the chest. The collision, and here's the thing, everyone who says, oh, he left his feet. Have you ever thought about skating, I don't know, 10, 15 kilometers an hour into another guy skating that speed? People are going to go upward. It's a collision. Everything moves up. When you see, I don't know if you guys watch, science shows or whatever, where they show cars smashing into each other or whatever. It's the same sort of thing. They're moving forward, they hit, and there's upward momentum.
Right.
And
There's always angular
everything
momentum.
Exactly.
You can't
Like
go
an
down.
18-wheeler needs to take that like off ramp. If we're making all the car references, I mean, Svech was the 18-wheeler and Lindholm was that road.
Oh man, it was crazy. It was a great hit that I absolutely loved, and it was distressing to see how many people actually didn't just go, and that was a great hit. He didn't have his head up, boom, whatever. But to call for 5 minutes and kicking out of the game and suspensions and elbows, and
That wasn't close.
thank goodness that I was not listening to NESN. That's all I'm going to say about that, because man, oh man, I would have
Speaking
been
of that
used to
game, I mean, how many Boston Bruins guys got fined after that game?
Yeah, well, yeah, and then
Two, and should have been 3 at a
Three.
minimum,
yeah,
because
yeah,
Pasternak, can say, "Oh, I was kind of out of control. I was whatever," but he went on record and was like, "Oh, like if you think that's an illegal, you don't know anything about hockey." It's like, no, you are not allowed to put your hands out at the last second into the goaltender's face to try
yeah,
and stop yourself. That's not legal. You can't do that. It's against the rules.
yeah. The goaltender is not a braking system.
Right. I don't think he was trying to run him, but when he got to that point, I think he made a conscious decision to mess with the goaltender.
Accidentally on purpose.
Accidentally,
right?
Oops.
Yeah.
It's like the old days when you would see, for example, a Sean Avery. The play is whistled dead. The goaltender has the puck. The goaltender steps out, and Sean Avery's coming from behind the net and quote unquote accidentally clips him with their stick in the back of the leg. Like, I didn't see you standing there. Like, hey, you did. You did it on purpose. Like,
Yeah,
we
you
all know you
totally
did.
did.
Pasta. You did it. Just say, I hit it. Didn't mean to. Should have done it. Move on. But that's
Wish
not what
I didn't hurt him. Just trying to get into his headspace there. That's what we try to do.
I think
it's
they
not-
should expand the goalie interference rule. I mean, as many e-bug situations as we've seen, like you can't mess with goalies. Like they should not be a target for defensemen.
To bring up a good point, Boston, do you really want us to go to the e-bug? Because Toronto blinked around and found out when they decided to do that. So do you really want to face us with an e-bug? Because we're 1-0.
LaFontaine was sitting back there ready to go. I don't know. I think
there you go. No kidding. And one other thing is, as far as the goaltenders, you were talking about, interference, and you shouldn't be touching them. You certainly shouldn't be making a goaltender look like a tree you're trying to chop down either. What the heck was that? First of all, Marchand, as Kochetkov comes out of the net, tries to play the puck or whatever, pick it up. There's this little shove that he gives from behind. So there's the first contact with the goaltender.
That's a cross check. That's a minor.
Yeah, that's a minor. Now, Kochetkov, not speaking a word of English, and I gotta say, it was so funny because Marchand spins around and Kochetkov gives him a blade across the shin pads. And you could see the look on Marchand's face. What the hell just happened? Instantly he swings back and tries to chop down that tree. And it was like, and Pyotr just turns away. Kochetkov just turns away. And it's like,
that was a vet trying to mess with a rookie, thinking, oh, he's a rookie, he's a kid, I can scare him. And Kochetkov's like, dude, I'm Russian, you can't scare me.
Yeah. Not only can you not scare him, here's something I'm going to throw out there, and this is not something we kind of talked about earlier. We've spoken, and everyone knows Kochetkov doesn't know a lick of English, or very, very little. He's using Google Translate during games to speak, and during game time to speak with trainers and whoever and whatnot, which is great. And I appreciate the effort, what they're doing. Svech is kind of acting as a translator as well. Is it a hindrance for the very young goaltender playing in a very high pressure situation with a new team to not be able to communicate at all with this team in that situation? Or is it actually a benefit, since he is going to be chirped? He is going to be, opposition's going to be chirping him, trying to get into his ear and stuff. He doesn't understand a darn word that they're saying. So there's nothing that they can say to him that's going to mean anything to him to actually get into his head. You know what I mean? Like there's maybe benefit there. You know what I mean? Just being in that situation and young, yeah, fans are going crazy, but that's what you expect. I mean, I'm sure he's used to that. What do you guys think? More hindrance or?
I think you bring up one of my favorite points of hockey, which is on the ice, the language is hockey. But I think we don't give enough props to Pyotr for coming over here and not speaking the language as fluently as he would possibly need to be coached to the level like that Anderson gets. I think Pyotr does have an advantage here because I think he knows the game as well as anybody on that ice. But hearing, slander from Marchand from, down below, down at his ankles almost. I think he was just like, hey man, like I have almost fought half of the AHL at this point. Like, come on, like give me a break.
He was going to take on the entire Iowa team at one point. Like he really told the bench, like,
yeah,
I'll take all of you.
He's also tried to fight other goalies. It's like I think he just has that mental attitude of like, hey man, we're playing a game here. Like you can't mess with me. And I just because I'm in all these pads doesn't mean I won't throw hands, which he did.
To jump in real quick to answer your question a different way, Ray.
Yeah, there you go. We got it.
Yeah, I talk like I text. Everybody who sees us on Twitter knows this now. The big thing for me with Kochetkov is the language barrier might be a hindrance in practice, in getting his goalie equipment. Like I said, there's the video of him and the equipment manager going back and forth till they figure things out. It doesn't translate, as Lindsey said, onto the ice at all. I mean, I don't remember seeing any wild miscommunications between him and his defense at all in the last two games, which we get with American goaltenders who speak English just great, right? So the language barrier, I think, is definitely, as Lindsey said, when they're on the ice, they're doing hockey because he's doing – you wouldn't know that he's only played 5 games with his team if you didn't know, you know what I mean? Like if you just give it the eye test, you go, oh, this kid's probably been with the team all year, because they seem to work fairly, flawlessly together. It's very seamless. So,
and as much as I harp on hockey players for kind of being, college dropouts, to put it in a nice way, so many of them speak more than one language, and I have to give them props because not only are they coming to America to come play one of the hardest sports, they're coming here with, basic vocabulary. And like as somebody that does speak 2 languages, I couldn't imagine going somewhere where they speak Spanish and having to play a sport and like being coached. I mean, I would be overwhelmed. So I give Pyotr and Andre and Natchez like all of these props for like just having that second language ability and then being able to use it in this, more than just a game. Like, Pyotr is now really close to Svechnikov, and it just shows you like the camaraderie that our team really has.
I love it. Now, game 3 yesterday, aside from the loss, something else took place, a really unfortunate kind of collision tie-up. Martinook out with a lower leg injury, and it looked like he got I don't know if it's his knee or an ankle or just what, but he got twisted up there along the boards. There was nothing dirty to it. It was just an unfortunate way that it all played itself out. Losing Marty hurts. He's an energy guy. He's, of course, assistant captain, and he brings a little bit of life to the bench and so forth. This kind of opens the door for Stepan, I guess, to be the guy to jump in his place. Where do you think we look? What is the damage of losing Martinook in the lineup in this series against Boston?
Oh, I'd love to go first.
Go
I've been
ahead.
pretty vocal about my thoughts on Martinook. I think he would be a great coach. I think he is the team's hype man for sure. However, I do think he should be our healthy scratch more often than not, and I wish we would scratch him more. I think that Stepan is a consistent player. I think he has better numbers. And I also like his chemistry with our team on the ice. He consistently comes from healthy scratches and scores a goal almost immediately. So I will be manifesting a Derek Stepan goal for game 4 on Sunday.
Your power comes with
she
great
said
responsibility. She called it.
She said it perfectly.
Stepan to have the goal. Excellent. Love it. Lindsey, using that power wisely. Fantastic. I love it. Go ahead, Brad.
She said everything I would have said. I love Martinook. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I've said on this program, don't put him in the top 6. He's out of place there. It's a fish out of water. It's a penguin trying to fly across the ocean instead of swimming. It's not a thing. That being said, he brings energy. He brings a little bit of sandpaper, but he's not going to probably get into a lot of fights. However, Derek Stepan gives you very similar attributes. Maybe he's not quite as the big hype man. He's maybe a little more quiet kind of guy, but he's going to at least give you, probably a little more in terms of actual points, which I saw a lot of people on Twitter last night like, oh, I'd rather have Martinook. Martinook is great, but all those intangibles, at some point, the final score is what we really care about, right? So if Derek can give us, an assist here or there, whereas Martinook's not, that's going to translate, into real points, into real playoff wins. That's what I am worried about right now. It's that time of year. You lose 4, you go home. There are no second chances at this point.
Martinook is not Brock McGinn. And I think that's how people view him right now, is the Brock McGinn's replacement. Brock McGinn was our playoff star. I don't think Martinook is that same level. I don't think playoff hockey has looked Martinook's best. And maybe he needs a rest. That's how I'll put it. Maybe he needs a rest. Because we will need him down the stretch. I think that he does bring that sandpaper, but I don't think we need it in this Boston series anymore. And I'm very happy that our depth exists and that we have healthy players like Stepan or even Lorentz. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he changed his name.
Ready to go. I mean, I love Lorentz too. So I'm biased in the sense that I would love to see them get more ice time, especially if we're going to do this long stretch. But I wish Martinook nothing but the best. I know that recovery during playoffs must be frustrating.
For sure.
Same. Yeah. And it looked to me real quick, Ray. I spent 10 years in emergency medicine. It looked to me more like an ankle than a knee. If it's like a high ankle sprain, he's probably out for the season. I mean, that's 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, now these are athletes that sometimes they'll come back earlier. They'll play through the pain. But, I mean, that's not the Bruins series. That could be a couple of series.
Yeah.
Stepan and Lorentz, what they give you a little more offensive touch than Martinook. What they don't give you is a little more grit. We don't need it because we have one Max Domi who we brought in, and one of the things that Max Domi is supposed to be bringing to us is sandpaper. So he's been can't remember who said it. If it was one of the folks on Twitter said it. He's been invisible, which is true. He hasn't anything dumb,
might have been me,
which is good. He hasn't anything great, which is not good. But he's been invisible, so he's just showing up. He's doing his job, which we've said for guys like Ian Cole. That's great. For Max Domi, hit somebody for flip's sake. You're in here.
Like when I used to work at Target and I would go in, make my money, and then leave. Like I wasn't going out and restocking shelves just on my own, just want to help the team. Like, I mean, I don't know what kind of hold Max Domi has over Don Waddell, but I am still confused by the signing. I'm glad we didn't lose any chips because of it. But oh man, I'd love to see him rotated out and just give another guy a chance.
I'd love to see KK moved up. It kind of busts up your fourth line though, but if they're gonna play you max, put a body on somebody. See what Svech did, and do that. Do it legal, but right in the center of their chest, catch them hard. Let them think about whether or not they really want to continue on in the playoffs this year.
I'd love for him to step up when Svechnikov has, and have it be Domi instead, because I feel like Svechnikov, especially with goalie stuff, Svechnikov is always the first one to answer the bell. But when it comes to like any kind of grit for like, penalties that we're taking or injuries that we've succumbed to, I mean, where's Domi? Like as a former current Leafs fan, Ty Domi was the sandpaper. Like I'd love to see that in this series moving forward.
This kind of leads almost perfectly into our section of the program where we, distribute and award the hurricanes, tropical storms, and tropical depression awards to our players, part aspects of the team, and so forth. And we're going to dive right into that now. I got a feeling I already know which depression, who's going to get the depression from Lindsey right now. But this is what we do. We pick a depression, storm, hurricane. We're going to start with the depression. Lindsey, who's the tropical depression on
player
the team?
Aspect of the game.
Player aspect, whatever.
Define it however you want to define it.
Exactly. And what do we need more out of?
I think the depression currently sits with Domi and Martinook. I would love them to be the healthy scratches and have them rotated out. And I also want to say that leaning into depression almost to a storm is Natchez. Was not very happy with his first two games this series. But yesterday I wasn't mad about it, but I just wish he was more consistent. I almost think he was told to kind of chill out a little bit with how he plays the puck. I wish he would just shoot the puck. Like every time he has it, just shoot it. Stop trying to pass people to score. So I think those are my three depressions that I am going to assign this week.
All right, Brad, it's your turn.
Easy peasy one from me. Well, let's do this like Jeopardy. The answer is 11.8%. The question is, why is our power play so bad?
Yeah.
We got knocked out of the Tampa Bay series last year. We exited the playoffs last year because we can't score on the power play. We are 11.8% on the power play this year. Ray and I have said this for 3 or 4 weeks. You look at the season total for the power play, and it's like 22, 23%. And we said it's not really. It was just really good early, and it stinks lately. And now that you can filter the NHL stats and just look at the playoffs, it's 11.8% through 3 games.
Where's Jake Gardner? I'd love his QB time right now. I mean, I hope he's doing well, but these are the kind of games where I'm like, man, if Jake Gardner is here with that consistent pass, like puck passing, I think we'd be in a better spot. I don't know what's up with the power play either. I think I was kind of like watching it, through my side eye because I just couldn't believe what was happening after like a consistent power play all year. What is it with Boston that makes us look so sloppy?
We actually had I think for the season, I think we were like 40% about them through the regular season. I really honestly think, I've said this before, we're just predictable. I can watch our power play and I go, here's what they're going to do. They're going to pass around the perimeter. They're going to pass it in low and immediately kick it back out to the perimeter. And they're going to pass it again. And this is going for about 30 seconds or so. So about 25% of the power play. Then somebody at the perimeter is going to rocket one in. It's going to get kicked out and they're going to start over, which means we're getting maybe 1, maybe 2 shots per power play. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? Wayne Gretzky, quoted by Michael Scott.
Yeah.
Right? It's on the whiteboard. We need to, in my opinion, right now, it looks like they're running kind of an umbrella. They got 2 guys down low. You got the perimeter. I think you switch to an overload, or now you switch to like a 1-3-1 and you put somebody behind the goal.
Ooh.
The number of times I have seen somebody actually take the puck on the power play behind the goal, and I'm like, Michigan Svechnikov, whatever lacrosse move you want to call it, is not something you're going to do a ton. But I've seen so many opportunities where I'm like, if you could do it, now's the time to try it because the goalie's still moving.
With those too. Like I feel like Stahl's had a lot of wraparound attempts. I put him behind there.
And even just regular wraparounds. Aho had one last night. He skates behind. I'm like, oh, he's going to try and wrap it around. He didn't. And then I think it ended up, the Bruins intercepted the pass and goes out of the zone. And I'm just like, if I'm sitting on my couch as somebody who doesn't play hockey anymore and who is just watching the team, and I can tell you who's getting the puck next, then so can the Bruins.
Yeah.
So the power play tempo needs to be picked up. They need to make faster decisions. In order to get that 2-on-1 that you want in a power play, you can't hold the puck for 4 or 5 seconds and then make the perimeter pass and then hold it for 4 or 5 seconds. And we need 2 people, right? Whoever has the puck and whoever the person to both be on the same page of like, I'm going to get it to you, and you need to know that he's open. You can see it right now. Like, I need to get you the puck, immediately get it in, take the shot. And they're just not doing that. So I think you either rotate the 3 guys down low, you put Svech right in front of the goalie with his butt right in there and just make the goalie see around him. Or you try and overload. You try 1-3-1. You put in Bear for TDA. Something's got to give. Something's got to change, because 11.8%. Not only is that not going to win you a cup, that might not get you out of the first round or two.
The one thing that I noticed in the power play, and especially last night, is that the times where there were opportunities that were created, it wasn't the puck movement around the outside, it was player movement. When they're, and I don't want to hear the cross-pollination with my basketball again. Anytime you start moving bodies and passing the puck and moving bodies, you're creating chaos. You're creating confusion. You're getting movement, right? If all of your defenders can just stay home in that little zone and just jump into shooting lanes to block shots and stuff like that, moving that puck moving it quickly and accurately is great and may give you an opportunity, but you're not getting the defense moving. And if you can get the defense moving around and dealing with, people sweeping through the front of the net or whatever, seriously, that's going to help. That's going to create some space and better scoring opportunities.
To use your own analogy,
yeah,
pretend there's a 3-second rule, right? Like
yes.
You're in the paint, you're in front of the goalie, he's there for 3 seconds, and then move, and somebody else slides in, and
someone else slides
rotate it. It doesn't need to be, you don't want a perfect rotation. You want to keep it off base, but you get in front of the goalie 3, 4, 5 seconds. If you don't get a look, you move, and that's going to force what you're talking about. It
gets some player movement, and I would love that. My depression, it's going to sound bad, but I want to be able to explain it. The depression that I have is goaltending.
That's a hot take.
I'm
putting that in the
show
notes.
My eyebrows literally raised so far to the back of my head.
I'm putting that in the show notes. We're gonna get a lot of listens for people who want to hate on Ray. Go ahead, Ray.
It's goaltending, but it's not our goaltenders. It is our goaltending situation. We are on a precarious cliff here where we do not have Freddie. We've got an injured Ronta. And now all of our hope is on a young man in a very difficult situation, and our backup is an even younger individual with 0 experience. We are playing against a Boston team that is physical, that is nasty at times, and don't mind trying to get into goaltending's kitchen. When those things happen, injuries can take place. We are just in a very precarious situation, and I am holding my breath that Kochetkov can continue playing great the way he has been, and that somehow, some way, we can get our Jennings Trophy winning goaltenders back into the lineup at some point. So it's a hot take. I said goaltending, but it's not them. It's the situation that we're in. We have to hold our breath here, folks, because imagine, I don't even want to say it because we have that kind of power. and with great power comes great responsibility. So I'm not going to say it, but we need things to return back to normal if we're looking at long-term success. That's my take.
I think we are in a weird situation, but I'm not worried about it. And I really do think, I'm not going to say Cam Ward. I hate that curse on Pyotr of like putting all that pressure on him. But I really do think that we have enough depth that I'm not worried. And I also think Anderson might just be trying to avoid the first round curse. I'm not worried. And I think that comes from like a loving place of me loving goaltenders. I really think that our goaltending coach is very knowledgeable. And I think he's like set us up for success. I mean, Lyon was supposed to be our big, third potential. But we have so many injuries, but I think we should put more pressure on our forwards and our skaters to not make the goaltender be the deciding factor in games. Like our playoff series cannot ride on the back of a goaltender. I'm looking at you, 2006. But I do think that we should be coaching forwards and skaters instead of relying on this like potentially questionable goalie situation, because the goalies are the third line. It should be forwards, skaters before goalies always. Like they are the last line of defense. And I think like we need to make better moves to make sure that they're not always getting this pressure. I mean, how many shots did Pyotr face last night? Like, it's just crazy. And like, these should be stopped before. I mean, I felt like half the time in our power play, we were passing the puck to the Bruins. And I was like, just because they're in black tonight does not mean that you can pass to them. Like I get where you're coming from, but I think we should put the depression pressure towards making sure that the goalie isn't always our only line of win or lose.
The only thing I'd add is with hearing so little news about Freddie, I wonder like what is a realistic expectation for him. I think Ronta is going to be back. I think Ronta starts game 4. Kuchekov, nothing against him at all. He's played phenomenal.
I was very happy with him.
If you get the Ronta we had in game 1, oh man, that's lights out. So I think Ronta goes in game 4. I'm hoping that he got game 3 off. A, because the kid earned it, and B, gives you a few more days for whatever was going on to, swelling to go down, pain to go down, feel a little better, get back in your groove. But I'm kind of expecting that we'll see Ronta tomorrow. And if he has another game like he had the other night, fantastic. To Lindsey's point with the forwards, we had 12 giveaways last night. The Boston 7. That's huge.
That is huge.
You and I have said for weeks and weeks, you cannot turn things over at our blue line, and you can't turn them over entering the offensive zone.
KK had 3 of them.
Guess what we did a bunch last night?
Yeah, KK had 3 of those 12 giveaways just by himself. And it was, one of them leading directly to a goal. So
he thought he was still playing for Montreal.
It's so surprising because he's one of the younger players with playoff experience. I mean, the Canadians went all the way. Like, I just think it's so crazy that he has been inconsistent, considering how well, circumstances aside, Montreal did last year.
Wonder if that leg still bothered him, if I'm being honest. I mean, he's playing. They gave him as much rest as they could. But I wonder if that's
fight, which I thought was a big part of like maybe he is still nursing something, but I'm trying to be optimistic. So
moving on, we're gonna jump into our storm here. Who is not quite who's holding their own but not giving us everything to jump right into that hurricane that we want, but still doing decently well here. Lindsey, you got a take on that?
I think I'm gonna wait until I hear what y'all have to say, because I don't think I have a medium volume. I'm either all the way up or all the way down.
Yeah,
I got one for you then. We'll see. And these are people I think are playing good but need to play better. And I'm going to say it's the top line, but I'm going to put 4 people in my group: Aho, Teravainen, Svechnikov, and Jarvis. Aho's playing a point per game. You might go, Brett, it's unfair to think he needs to play better, but Tavo, Svechnikov, and Jarvis each have 2 points in 3 games, so they're at a 0.67 points per game clip, which once again isn't bad. But then you look at Vinny T, Jacob Slavin, and Todd D'Angelo, who are all over 1. So of our top 3 scores, 2 of them are defensemen, which is fine.
Mhm.
I mean, those are, three assists and 4 assists respectively. Vinny Trocheck's out there just hustling. And, Seth Jarvis got banged around a little bit last night. Want to see him continue to play the way he's been playing. Svechnikov, his goal is that empty net goal. So that doesn't, it counts on the score sheet, but he needs to score a goal 5-on-5, right? Tavo, shoot the puck, man.
Shoot the puck.
We all love you. If you miss, it's cool. Like, we all want you to shoot the puck more, because when you shoot the puck, good things tend to happen for you. Sebastian Aho, 2 goals and an assist so far. You can't really complain about that, averaging a little over 20, just a hair over 20 minutes of TOI. But you're the top 4 guys, right? I know Seth Jarvis is a rookie, but he hasn't played like a rookie in a long time this season, going back to November.
Yeah,
so
no question.
The 4 of you are playing well. If you're going to win the series, now you're back up against what they call the perfection line. Well, you're better than them. If I'm being blunt, I think whatever combination of the 3 of you, whether it's Aho, Teravainen, and Svechnikov, or Aho, Teravainen, and Jarvis, however you're going to mix it up, are a better line. You need to put the puck in the net.
My Storm, you kind of touched on it, and I've got 2 ideas, but I'm just going to give the one, leave some room for Lindsey here. And mine was Turbo. It just, for me, how many thousands of times have I said it, Brad? He's the straw that stirs the drink. He seems to be able to find a way to get that puck into guys' wheelhouse, and the passing is what's been so good about him, because he can find those open guys. But look at the example of the shot that he had on the goal that he scored. Like, it was a beautiful shot. That was perfect. It beat Allmark like a rented mule. It was so quick. It's so accurate. He's got that in him. He needs to get himself into a position to score. And when he gets there, to shoot it and not look for something a little bit better. So look, he's got good puck movement. He's solid. Just a little bit more, Turbo. Just a little bit more. Man, we love you. Lindsey, fire away.
All this conversation makes me think about consistent reffing. I think that's
fair game,
storm
Lindsey.
here is the reffing has been trash or it has been good, and there has been no consistent calls. Brendan Smith is a great example of what's happening. I mean, in that same sequence of events that Brendan Smith got boarded, Ian Cole got a penalty. And I just think that it's not good. It's not great. It's shying close to horrible. I know refs have a very hard job. I know that playing in the Garden is not fun for refs. And I think that's the Storm. I also think the fans at Boston knocking that glass over is part of the Storm. I mean,
or the ice crew taking out the linesman.
Yeah. I think there's a lot going on, but I think reffing is my mid. I'm not very pleased with it. I'm not very angry about it. I think last night it got better, but I just think it's been inconsistent, and I'd like to see them step up, especially in a series as close as ours.
And
no question.
To your point, 2 of Boston's 4 goals come on the power play.
Yep.
At 5-on-5, the Hurricanes have been a much better team. We just haven't seen it because somebody's always in the box for one team or the other.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that is Tony. Tony takes very risky penalties, and he's going to get a misconduct soon. And I wish he wouldn't.
Yeah, no, there's no question there. We're gonna jump into our Hurricane. Who are you most pleased with at this point? Who are you just loving to death for what they're doing on the ice? Fire away, Lindsey.
Here comes the Prius. I am obsessed with Trocheck this series, and I have been a pretty vocal critic of his because I know that there's a huge, contract awaiting the offseason. Trocheck has been a train. I think he's been super consistent. I think he's been a good leader on the ice. I have just been incredibly impressed. I think he's playing some of his best hockey. He's physical. He's scoring. I mean, I can't get off the Vinny train. Choo choo. I'm all about that Prius.
Love it. Love it. That's a fantastic pick. Brad, what do you think?
This will be controversial because as a show who is about hockey should be for everybody, I hate to say this. And I'm gonna give you a pair because Rod Brindamore has given us a pair. They have made some mistakes, particularly one member more so than the other. But Slavin and D'Angelo as your top pair defensemen have 8 points and are a +10. They have been combined phenomenal. TDA certainly has made some mistakes as an individual, still not a fan, but his on-ice performance, those two guys have done everything that you would want a top D pair to do. They have overall been very good defensively. There's been gaffes, but there's always going to be gaffes. But at the same time, a +10 between them. And then those 8 points have been huge. I mean, so I'm taking them as one. It's Slavenangelo.
I gotta say, I think
Ciccone.
even I could play hockey on Slavin's line and be very good. So
I'm not going to disagree with you, but I have to be fair that Tony was brought in for $1 million to do what he's doing in this series. I mean, if I'm just looking at it from a hockey perspective, if I had to pick one, it would be Slavin. Yeah. But if I'm looking at a top pair versus Boston's top pair, our top pair is doing exactly what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, you know what? And Brad, okay, so you took my Hurricane, but I was for some reason I'm in this mood of hot takes and stuff. I was gonna go TDA, just on his own.
That's a hotter take. I appreciate you taking all the heat off of me when I'm on Twitter because I can just go, oh no,
trouble.
Ray said that.
He's and that's fine. The offensive puck movement he was doing has been great. He's been producing, and he has jumped into the fray to defend. Like who was the guy who answered the bell when Smith got lit up? It was TDA. He was the one that was jumping in. I love those sort of things. That's what I love. So that's what I would have gone with. I do have another.
Real quick, he needs to be careful, though, because as Lindsey said, he's approaching a line where you got to be in control. Let Boston be dumb and let Boston take the penalty.
It would be terrible. We would lose.
No, 100% it would. But in the same respect, he jumped in to defend his guy and stuff like that, answered the bell. I didn't mind that at all. I thought it was appropriate. He didn't go overboard. Again, he's playing in that gray area a little bit, but there's no question what he's doing on offense. And that's really what they wanted all along when they were talking about replacing Dougie Hamilton. That's what he wanted. So that was that. So you kind of took that, but I'll even take even more heat. The one that I really love, and this is part of a greater group, but I'm going to make it more singular. Jasper Fast.
I almost said he's going to see Jasper Fast because the kid's been great.
He has been absolutely fantastic, and it's part of that third line with Stahl and Nino, who as a group really, to me, are a Hurricane. That consistency that we've always wanted, that they control the play. When they're on the ice, they are usually in control of the play and the puck, and they get the movement. They work hard. Responsible defensively, they can create offense as well. So defensive responsibility, still creating offense. Jasper Fast is going into corners quick. He's getting great shots. The man's playing great, and I love every aspect of what he's doing. Jasper Fast, he is, and sadly, it's the first time that I've mentioned his name in this type of format. But it's not. I've thought about him this way all season long. He's a Hurricane in my eyes. Absolutely, Jasper Fast. Love what he's doing.
I have been on the Fast train as well. I have loved him from the beginning. I thought he was a great trade piece. I was so excited to get him. the thing about Jasper Fast is that he's so consistent that there's no need to talk about him. Like he's just consistently showing up, consistently showing goals. So when it comes to making decisions of like, oh, who was bad, who was good, he's never on that list because he's always on. Like I think he comes to work, he does his job, and then he leaves. Like I just think he doesn't have like that, personality that Martinook has. Like he's not, our Sebastian Aho, like the face of the franchise. He's just a consistent Hurricane. And I would love for him to be like kind of like our new Brock McGinn. Like he has been the key to a lot of games. And I think moving forward, he will be the one that we look back and we say his name is going to shine the brightest on the cup because he just was good.
He gets lost a little bit because of the line he's on, right? You have the captain, then you have Nino, flipping Nino Rider. And if he's not with those two guys and he's playing his game, you probably notice him more. But you're right, he fits in so well with those two. And Nino is this guy who gives you these highlight reel things from time to time. Stahl's the captain, right? No doubt there. And so Foss is just kind of there, and he's one of those guys who, when you don't hear his name, he's probably playing pretty well. And he just kind of slips in there. And I think if he wasn't with those other two guys, we'd probably talk about him more. But he's just kind of the silent member of that line. But he's certainly an integral part of shutting down the other teams because that line has been phenomenal.
We're running up against the clock here. Time is growing short. We have just a couple more things to do. I'm going to throw this out there for you. We're in the playoffs, of course. It's not just Boston, Carolina. The NHL playoffs, most difficult trophy to win. So much excitement and stuff. I'm going to give you guys a chance. Pick a series out there going on right now that you want to highlight, that you want to talk about. I'll jump right in with my first one. My first one is the Rangers Penguins series. They've already, I think, played 3 games, even though they've only played 2. Well, they did have that extra overtime. You know what I'm saying? I want lots more. I want lots more overtime, lots more heavy hitting. You guys, it's a war of attrition. And it's
so
to talk about the Hurricanes as a depression goaltending situation. I know how hypocritical it is to look at the Penguins and say, oh, they can continue having Domingue in net and stuff. That's fantastic. Keep having that. No worries, as you were, right? But that series has been fantastic to watch. Very exciting, great playing, and it's going to be a long one. It's going to be the 7-game series that I think everyone figured it would be.
I have been watching that as well. I wanted Pitt in our first round, but now that New York and Pitt are going at it and they're going to be tired, I'm more than happy to watch that go down from the sidelines. I'm glad it's not us. I would not want to play overtime hockey. I think it's exhausting.
No question. Brad, you got a series you want to?
I'm going to lightning round all the series real quick. Like a super quick thought on each one, if that's okay.
Awesome. Fire away. Love it.
Panthers, Capitals are tied 1-1. First game was 4-2. Second game was 5-1. Series is going exactly how I thought. They hate each other. There's a lot of scoring. One team seems to take advantage. Toronto and Tampa Bay. I want to watch the series. I can't. It's all blue and white, and it's just like it's migraine inducing. There's just one of y'all needs a new uniform. I don't care. One of y'all pick new uniform because the blue and white versus white and blue is really frustrating. New York Rangers, Penguins. I said that if Yari is hurt, that's probably the series for the Penguins. They've, it was a triple OT winner, but at least they got one. That's a series I think to keep an eye on. Props to Nashville for almost tying that up in overtime, because after that 7-2 debacle, I was worried that they were going to get swept, which I think was my prediction. They still might get swept, but they showed a lot of gut. So Predator fans should be happy. They should be proud, not happy. Proud is a better word. Wild Blues is one that I thought was going to be the other big series to watch, and that is the other one that I am watching. That series is fantastic.
Wow.
Caprill last night goes in on practically a breakaway, gets stopped, grabs his own rebound and stuffs it in. It was beautiful.
It was.
Flame Stars is one that it might, it's 1-1. It's closer than I kind of thought it would be. I still think it might be the Flames going to the Stanley Cup Finals. And then Oilers Kings is Oilers have a 2-1 lead. They just really have taken the 14-2 were the goals in the last two games combined for the Oilers. The Kings just don't have it. I was hoping they would, but I think that series is mostly over.
That is okay. So very quickly, that's the Oilers team that their fans have been waiting for a very long time in the past two games. And with Smith in net actually playing well, that they have just amazing firepower. So we're getting those questions answered very quickly. The Flames, as someone who lives in Calgary, I can tell you, I hear it all around me. There is a little bit of nervousness going on, mostly because they seem to be playing Dallas's game instead of playing their own. And Dallas, Coach Bonus, he set up his lines where every line is the same. There's no superpower high scoring line and then a shutdown line or whatever. Every line is the same. So no matter who you put out there, you've got a worker on the ice. You got someone who can score. You got and that's what he wants. He wants consistency, every line up, every line out, and it's giving the Flames headaches. I did not expect this low a scoring situation, especially from the Flames. There is concern. I still think the Flames are good for a 5-game win. I believe that's what I picked. I think they can win it, but they better find themselves quick. And I'm looking at Gaudreau. I'm looking at that top line. Tkachuk, man, oh man. Lindsay, do you have? Sorry, I jumped in there, but Lindsay, it's your turn now.
Yeah, no worries. I have been watching the Toronto series because I think this is the year they, break the curse. But I think I'm just projecting that because I feel like Toronto deserves it. Austin Matthews alone deserves to, all of the praise that he's getting is well deserved. I think he's if not the best Leafs player ever, he is a franchise Leafs player. I mean, he is the face of the franchise. He deserves some kind of playoff momentum here. I've loved watching that series. How many goals Toronto scored against Vasilevsky has been shocking. I really thought Vasilevsky would have more shutouts, a lower scoring game, but I mean, he's given them up. But I mean, they have Austin Matthews, they have Mitch Marner. I think it's a really good series. I also have Calgary going far, but as I love some of the Dallas Stars. I'd love to see Yanni Hakanpää make it to the second round. I think Dallas, Finns get wins. I'm hoping the best for them. But yeah, those are the two main ones I'm watching that I really care about. And I kind of just wish the Capitals would destroy Florida because I really feel like we could beat the Capitals.
100%. We just have one more thing to talk about, games 4 and 5 coming up. But Brad, I know you want to jump in here or something before we go to games 4 and 5. You got something for us.
Kind of quick. Happy birthday, Ray. The Storm Cellar is a year old this week. It was a year ago and maybe a week that I called Ray, who we've known each other for 20 something years, had never talked before. And I said, "Do you want to do a podcast?" And Ray was like, "Hell yeah, I want to do a podcast." And so here we are a year later. Happy birthday to us. We hit 500 followers on our 1-year anniversary yesterday, which is really cool for Ray and I. Because when we started, I told, expectations. And I said, if we have 10 people who listen to the podcast, I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally Ray will. I mean, I can find the text and say, if we can find 10 people that want to hear what we have to say, that would be neat. And we have, our audience is creeping up towards 100 people who regularly listen to the program, which is cool.
It's just awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations. That is
thank you. Lindsay is our 1-year anniversary guest.
Oh, yes. I bring the party, so I totally understand the invite. I was gonna say something. Never mind. It'll come back to me.
You know,
I interrupt a lot. See, I did that right there.
Yeah, this past year has been just amazing, and the request and the ask came at just an opportune time in my life, and it meant so much to have again a guy that I had never seen. We only talked. You know what? It's funny how you can make those connections online and you talk and people love things or whatever and never see each other. And it's just wild. And when he called and said, "Hey, what do you think? I'm thinking about starting this, you know, Kane's, podcast. I don't know what the hell we're going to call it, but we'll come up with the name and a little theme or whatever. What do you think?" And I'm like, "Dude, this is fantastic. Of course, sitting around talking about the thing that we love that has brought us together." And I think that's the part that very quickly became the theme. It's where fans from all points in the world, wherever they are, you don't have to be just in the community where the team is playing to love this team. You know what I mean? I mean, that helps because you get to see a lot more of them. But man, oh man, and to have that connection with people all over the world, and we've proven it on this program, guests from all over the world who
We have a listener from Australia who I'm trying to track down who it is.
AJB.
Oh,
That's his Twitter handle. Yeah.
See, Lynn, perfect guess for our 1 year. Because I'm like, who is this Australian who's listening to us? That's awesome. Now we know we need to get them on the program.
No question.
It even ties into the Whale, right? The Whale has fans across the world, and they were never a great team. They had, because there was personality, there was something special about the team. I've said many times, this podcast has made me feel a lot more connected. I'm not just a Hurricanes fan in Boston, just listening and watching the games in isolation anymore. I have people who I can interact with who make me feel like I'm there when I'm not. Bailey Curtis, who's at Bailey Curtis, she asked us, what has been your highlight moment of the past year from the podcast? And then what do you think has been like the biggest change or difference? The highlight for me, I know what it is, actually. I was like, there's so many, but I keep coming back to one, and that was, and it ties into the whole theme. This guest, Ray, set us on the direction that we have continued to head, and that is having on one Miss Laura Wheeler, Finnish Sunshine, a Finnish Caniac from Dallas, right? So
yes.
I think she was our very first guest. Because before that, we were only like 3 weeks into the podcast. It's just me and Ray the first 2 weeks. I said, I saw Laurel, her story pop up, but I just reached out and said, would you want to come on a podcast? She was like, heck yeah. She was our first guest. She has set the tone for all the episodes since. I think that's also the biggest change, Bailey, in terms of the podcast is we didn't know other than we wanted to talk about Hurricanes. We had some ideas, but I think having Laurel on really cemented, like we had such a good time just talking to her and hearing how she got to be a Caniac and what she's done. I mean, she's back in the States now. I think she was at at least game 2. I think she was games 1 and 2. Yeah. And I think that to me was the defining moment of what we've done, because there are tons of podcasts we've said before where you can get Hurricanes stats, you can get opinions, all the things that we have. I don't know how many other, and lots of podcasts have guests, but we really try and focus on, at least for the first part of the show, is find out, like, why are you a Hurricane? Is it because you just live in Raleigh? Is it because, and so many of our guests don't live in Raleigh, or they've come from afar, or they're like Lindsey and maybe they followed a player here a little bit, but then they're like, but there's something different about this team. I like these people, or I like this team. And then they stick on. And to me, that's the really cool part. So that's truly grateful. We have a great time talking with people. I do on Twitter, on having people come onto the show that we can interact with. We don't always necessarily agree on everything, but if we did, that'd be super boring. So
yeah,
that to me, though, that's been, kind of, like I said, going back to Bailey's question, the highlight moment, and then kind of the biggest change is having Laurel on, and that because that kind of set everything that's come after.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been some great highlights in my eyes. For me, and yours was really. I mean, you're right. That set what the program would become. It totally set what the program would become, and that's fantastic. For me, some of my favorite moments involved have involved reliving catching up with you and meeting you personally, because there have been a number of fans that have joined us on the program that I've known for a long time, known of for a long time, but never had the chance to speak with. And so we get to talk about, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, the willingness to embrace the Whalers, that's another thing for me that I've absolutely loved, because as a fan of this franchise and this organization since 1980, it just means so much to me where everyone can embrace the history and share the love. I mean, we've had guests that were related to former Whalers, who lives just down the road from me, as a matter of fact. Other fans that were, uh, who went to games regularly in the Civic Center. I mean, it's just amazing. Another highlight for me was the simulcast, right? Where we're
That's fun.
simulcasting with another, Coach Dwayne, who runs the sports school, his podcast. We simulcast. Like when we were doing our own, suddenly we're talking about simulcasting with another one. I mean, it was a crazy idea, and it made it work, and we're planning on doing it again. I mean, this type of thing is just so wonderful, and it's so fun to connect with people and talk about something that we love. And there's a genuine sense of love and appreciation that we have with our guests, but that we have with the people that have been following us. And we tell you over and over again, send your questions in. If you want to join us, please join us. We want to hear your story. We love meeting new people. We love hearing about your love of the game. Let's talk. Let's meet, because we can turn this community into family. You know what
From
I
an
mean? Like
outsider's
Absolutely.
perspective, I definitely think last year there was a lot of tumultuous moves in the organization that made a lot of people feel like they might not be welcome. And one thing I noticed about y'all is like your profile picture was, or your like background picture was of obviously like from Pride Night. And like for me, like I feel like in the last year, the fan base has shifted a lot because of some moves that the front office has made. But I keep on coming back to this thought that like the franchise shouldn't dictate how this fan base feels as fans. Like, yes, they made some moves that like might have made people mad, and they've done a very inconsistent job of supporting people, like communities that come and watch the game. But I feel like it is now in the power of the fans to like change it so that people do feel welcome. So like when I'm thinking of the Storm Cellar, I was like, okay, I can't curse, I want to bring up like issues that are important to me, but like I think especially queer fans and like fans of, Black fans and people of color, I feel like they've like felt kind of shaded out. But I feel like podcasts like this exist to have voices that still are in this. Like, I don't think a random podcast would just have me on, especially like with how vocal I am politically. But like you guys took a chance, and I feel like it's creating that space again. So like fans can talk about their experience without it being shaded by like, oh, you can't be a fan now because of blah blah blah. And I feel like it's been so important, especially like in the past year. So props to y'all for like consistently having messaging around inclusivity and welcoming and like sharing people's stories regardless of like where they fall politically or personally. So props.
Well, and thank you. I mean, sorry, I'm
wow,
literally
I'm not
literally
crying, you're
tearing up.
crying. Wow.
When we first started, we used the tagline everybody does, right? Hockey's for everybody. And we changed it. We said that's if the kids are in the room, earmuffs, cover their ears. Hockey's for everybody is bull. I don't curse very often in this program. It's not true. We say hockey should be for everybody because it should. Hockey is a game. It's a sport. People shouldn't feel marginalized because of that. To your point, Lindsey, I'm hoping that during the off season, we're going to do some roundtable discussions. People of color, LGBTQ style roundtable is absolutely something I would love to do because we've had both of those groups represented on this program. And I love hockey. And to use a negative, maybe as a positive, speaking of the off-season signing, it divided the fan base. Like there's clearly a division in the fan base. What I had to come to grips with is players come and go. I've loved this team since 1997. It's been 24 years. One player is not going to make me quit, nor will a particular owner or a GM. This is my team. I'm going to outlast anybody else, right?
I completely agree. I had a really hard time. I really, really did because we had done so much legwork in 2018, 2019, 2020 to like make sure this fan base felt welcomed. But I also feel like that signing to push people out that need to still be here to make you like I feel like the visibility of games, like I want more people to come to Pride Day. I want people to feel welcome. And as we push more fans out that have like that scope of like hockey should be for everybody, the more linear it's going to become and the more fans are going to come to the game that like maybe don't make people feel welcome. And I feel like bodies at games that like exist in these spaces that are not typical hockey fans is the most important thing we can do right now. So that's why I've been like telling people like the less people we have that are advocating for people and like doing the work and like existing as Black people, like as fans, like the more this fan base is going to change. And that's like the scariest thing to me is like it's moving in a direction that I don't want. And that's why I became way more vocal. I took a long time to become vocal about this team after the signing. I was very angry, but now it's like I need to be consistently there for queer people. I need to be consistently there for my Black friends that want to come, because the less fans we have that stick up for these people, the more it's just going to grow into this like what's becoming this like crowd. I don't even know what to say.
Ray and I are, two, cis male heterosexual guys who just want people to know they have allies out there in our community. Yep. Not every middle-aged white guy is trying to look down or trying to segregate people from just being who they are. I mean, that's what we want. We want people to just feel comfortable to say, I'm going to go to a hockey game. And a lot of people initially were like, with that signing, I'm done. I'm selling my season tickets. I'm getting out. And the problem with that, as you pointed out, is, well, then who's left? And is that what I want for my team? Because this was my team before it was Tom's team. It was my team before it was Don Waddell's team. It was my team before it was Ronnie Franchise's. Well, that's maybe a bad example because he's a Whaler. But this is our team. And I for one, am not going to give up and say, we're going to, let some subsection of people dictate how this fan base behaves. Because that's not just our fan base, but any. There is a group of Avalanche fans I just can't stand, because they have this, we have 2 cups and you have 1, and that makes us better than you mentality. But I can't hate the Avs, because I see the Avs and what they do, particularly with things like Pride Night and reach out, and they're very vocal about going on Twitter when somebody calls them out and basically just saying like, no, like you're wrong. This is who we are. Same thing for the Canucks. I have great respect for those teams and organizations. I was very disappointed in February this year, and even with Pride Night, with what the Hurricanes did, because I thought it was kind of for show and the corporate, like, oh, we're doing something. We're with you. That's to kind of truncate it. To get back on hockey for 45 seconds, Lindsey, game 4 and game 5, does this series go 5? Does it go 6? Real quick predictions.
I think 6. I think we possibly take a win tomorrow in Boston and then we lose one at home. But I'm glad we're back in the building in PNC. That's all I've got to say. We should bring the noise on Tuesday. I will be there. I will be loud. And I think our key piece will be Jasper Fast and Antti Raanta being healthy.
Yeah, it's going to have to be. If I'm looking ahead to games 4 and 5, Brad, my memory. The one thing about my memory, it's short. It's terrible. I think I picked 6 games for this one. If I were to pick which games we were going to end up losing to result to that one, I don't see us losing at home. I think we might end up coming back. We might be coming back to Raleigh tied at 2. There's a distinct possibility of that. And as much as I don't want that, because that will make me very nervous. Hockey is a game of momentum. And when that momentum shifts, sometimes they can get on that train and it just doesn't stop. And every series really begins when the home team loses a game. To me, I mean, I want that win tomorrow night more than anything, because I'd much rather have this being 5-game series than going the full 7, having every team win at home. Let's just leave it at that. And I want a win tomorrow night for Sydney, who is in attendance. She was our guest last week. She's in attendance in Boston for the game tomorrow morning. Well, morning in my neck of the woods. Yeah, it's let's have it. Let's have a win. Brad, go ahead.
I think they win tomorrow. I don't know if it'll go 5 or 6, but I feel it's going to come back 3-1 with the Hurricanes lead. And if that happens, then I feel really comfortable. If it comes back 2-2, then it's a best of 3, right? All bets are off. So
there you go.
I think that covers it.
It does. This has been a fantastic program, Lindsey. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the brilliance and intelligence and the love of the team. You can feel the love of the Canes and your love of the sport emanating through the screen. It's absolutely great. We loved it. I hope your family, not too many knuckle chucking going on there. And really, I kind of worry for you a little bit if this ends up being the Leafs and Canes in the Eastern Conference Final, because
hey, at least I only have to watch one game at that point.
There you go.
Between all the channels right now.
There you go. No question. It's been a great program. Thank you again.
Thank you
so
Lindsey.
very much.
Thank you for having me.
You know
Absolutely.
what, Brad? Is there really anything else more to say?
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.